This is a quick tutorial on how to do data binding in Livecycle Designer ES4. Data binding is the process of taking your form objects, such as these two text boxes, and transforming them into a data file that can be used on the server side. So what we have here is a very simple form with two text fields and a submit button that will allow us to see the XML that's being submitted to the server. So if we preview this document and hit the submit button, we'll see that we're sending over some really simple XML. We have a root object called form1, and we have two sub-elements inside that form1. Then if we look at our hierarchy, our document object model, we'll see that form1 comes from the root element here, and the names were inferred from the names of our form objects. One thing we can do if we want to add some hierarchy to a XML data file is create a subform. So I'm going to drag that from our object library, size that out, and then I'm going to drop our two text fields into that subform. And you'll see over here the subform now wholly contains the two text fields. So if we preview this document, we'll see that we have a subform and it is also containing the information as expressed in the document object model. So it would appear that the document object model and the XML file mirror each other one-to-one, and that's mostly correct. But one thing you'll notice is that we already have a subform here, this untitled subform, and yet we didn't see it in the XML file. And the reason for that is the binding name is not set. So we see we're using name binding, which is the default binding used in Livecycle Designer ES, and that there is no name set. So let's go ahead and give this a name. Now when we submit, we'll see that there's a form1 that contains a titled subform that contains a subform which contains two elements. Now let's say we're already heavily invested in these names. We've created some scripting and we don't want to have to go in and change all the names of our fields just because we want them to look different on the server side. What we can do is actually separate the name that gets sent over to the server from the name that appears in our document object model. And the way we do that is we go over to data binding and we type in a name here. So we'll call this custom subform name. And what you'll notice is it didn't change the name here. But it did change the name in the XML file. So this allows us to separate the names, if we need to, of what gets sent over to the XML data file from the names we're using for scripting and general design functionality. So this has been a quick tutorial on how to use implicit binding, use name binding in Livecycle Designer ES4.